Hey everybody, and welcome to this edition of World Sports Daily. I'm Jim Williams, along with Sean Miller and the man, the legend from the Great Northwest, Amedeus. Guys, fun day yesterday, all kinds of fun stuff. Let's jump on a couple of quick things. First, on the drama that is the U.S. men's national team. The Reyna family are not happy with Coach Berhalter and his incident. The interim coach was named, and of course, it's Hudson for the time, at least to get him through January. What's going on with Team Crazy?
The problem with the whole U.S. national team is that Greg Berhalter's brother is in charge of the U.S. national program. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's all nepotism. Like, just burn it all down and start over with people that aren't related to people that are running the pro. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, get all these people out. Reyna, get them all out. Like, just go. But here's the perfect chance, burn it all down and start over and actually have a competent thing going into the World Cup. You can't have, Berhalter can't stay. His brother needs to go as the president. Reyna and the thing. I mean, these families go back a long ways.
Right.
Jersey soccer and stuff. But it's their wives were roommates at UNC.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mess, but. Maybe Berhalter shouldn't have, not played one of the best players at the World Cup, and maybe he should have, not been an ass. But they're here. We are.
It seems like we end up in this position a lot with the U.S. men's national team. Not so much with the women's team, but usually the men's national.
There's a lot of stuff with the women's team too, but a lot of that stuff gets papered over because they win every once in a while. Here the problem, look, man. I mean, everybody. There's about three decent women's national teams in the world. The U.S. men's soccer, football is so much more advanced. So I always, U.S. women, U.S. men, like, they're not the same. Look, I mean, there's three. In half the world, women aren't even allowed to play sports. Like, it's not like. It's not a fair thing. I mean, it's just crazy. The U.S. women's team is helping drag, half the world out of the,
the dark ages
stuff and into the 21st century and stuff like that. But, it's not really a comparison to me, to be honest. But yeah, the men's team is a mess. Like, just burn it down, start it all over.
Amedeus, you are someone who's an observer from outside the country, so you can be objective in that part too.
I don't really know what to make of the situation. I think obviously the U.S. men's national team has those issues. Sean was very unhappy with a lot of the starting lineups, and right. I think the fact that the Reynas came out just shows the frustration of, like, Gio Reyna. I think, as Sean put it, he was screaming for this guy to start. Mm-hmm. And Berhalter wouldn't start him. And I think the reason why the Reynas came out is because you're seeing that frustration boil up. And, maybe change is good for this program for sure, because, obviously they got to the round of 16 in the World Cup, but they weren't able to get past there. I mean, they made big steps, but definitely. I don't know. They definitely should get some changes going for sure.
Well, I don't know much about soccer. No, just kidding. I know. But look, like, Gio Reyna is starting and playing, when he's not injured, for Borussia Dortmund, who's a round of 16 Champions League team and a, runner-up behind Bayern Munich every single year, and maybe not this year, but they'll get there. Like, he's a starter in one of the Europeans' top 5 leagues. So, if he's good enough to start for Bayern, for Borussia Dortmund, and make a move to the Premier League here in the next year or two, how is he not good enough to play for this U.S. national team? So clearly there is other stuff going on.
Well, welcome to the U.S. men's national team's version of the Housewives of the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, it's just
so
like
it's
it's a mess. They have, but it's all start. Look, here's the pro. If you're hiring your brother to run the program,
Yep.
Bill, how's it going? If you're hiring your brother to run the program, you have to be ready to listen to people complain about how there's nepotism, and when you don't run the program properly and there's other stuff going on, you're going to come in for a lot of scrutiny. And that's this is the problem. When if I hired my brother, and he was messing the whole thing up all the day, he wasn't doing the right, he's this, and there's all this stuff coming in, and like, am I gonna, it's my fault for hiring him.
Right.
Why don't you go outside the family? I mean, you're going to come under, but it's just that's how it is here. I mean, that's why U.S. soccer never win anything. That's why I know people care. I don't care. Like, I couldn't care less, to be honest. Like, I had to pretend to be excited about the U.S. and the World Cup on Twitter because we played England and stuff, and I had to give it the really big bollocks and stuff like that. But I really don't care.
Okay, so
I'm a Manchester United fan, so I don't care.
just to be clear, yesterday you spoke about the death threats. Okay.
Yes.
Your goal is to get that list of death threats up. Is that where we're going with it?
I don't think anybody watching this show cares about the U.S. national team. They care about.
They don't care. I'm just kidding.
They care about
they care about football.
Club, they care about club stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So just quickly, Bill. I
Bill
think
wants to know about Man City.
Yeah.
Bill,
Man City, the over. Bill, I'm not sure about the over because I'm just not sure about Chelsea, to be honest with you. It's probably a good play. Man City at -137 is a fantastic play. Holland to score a goal is probably minus $1 million at this point if he plays. -117. There you go. I think that they're giving you. I mean, I think Amedeus, maybe you could speak to this a little bit as it's here, but maybe this has to do with the form rather than the actual, like this team is going to turn it around at some point. Like, they could thump Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea's very good. They could thump Chelsea today. This could be the game, maybe, and especially with the Arsenal result and the way that City played. City never plays poorly two games in a row.
Yeah, definitely. I had to rub my eyes when I woke up this morning because Man City was at -154 last night when I went to sleep. And I woke up to it at -134 this morning. And I couldn't believe that. I don't know how you don't take Man City at that price just because it's pure value. I know you're still paying juice, but you're never going to get Manchester City at a price like that. Or if you do, it's going to be very rare throughout the season that you get them in any competition at that price. So I think there's definitely value with just the City side. But, Bill, I would stay off that over. I really don't like the over in this game. I
don't think Chelsea can score.
That's the thing, right? Chelsea's attack has been terrible, but Man City, they haven't been playing great. Like, they had a 1-1 draw with Everton in their last match, and that was at home. Now they got to go on the road in Chelsea, and they've struggled with Chelsea in the past. If you look at their last few matches, it's all 1-0 scores.
Champions League final.
Yeah, but Man City has won the last 3 against Chelsea, but it's all 1-0, 1-0. 1-0. If you look at the series history, there's some 0-0 draws in there after you get past the 3 wins. Like, they always, Chelsea seems to come to play Man City with a very defensive mindset. Yeah. If you look at Chelsea's last few matches, even though their attack's been terrible, they haven't been giving up many goals. So I see them, they're at home here with a bit of an advantage. I think they probably come in with that defensive style and just say, if Everton can get a point off Man City, we can get at least a point here and then try to move forward from there. But I still, I don't know if Chelsea comes away with the draw. I think Sean makes a very good point where Man City is going to be motivated after seeing Arsenal drop points. They can cut that lead down from 8 to 5 points here with a win. And I think you're going to get a great effort from Man City. But again, just, Chelsea always comes to play them, and there's never any goals when these two play each other.
I think if when you, like we'll talk about the Premier League in a little bit, I think, but I know I know what Amadeus thinks. I think you're gonna look up here in March and this table is gonna look a lot different. I think it's gonna be I think we're gonna have City on top or even like a lot closer. This gap's not going to be 7 for long. I think Arsenal is going to start to maybe come back down to earth. They're playing at like an insanely high level at this point. I don't think they can kind of keep that up in multiple competitions. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they'll drop below second this year. But I think City hasn't really even played well at this point. They've played well in spurts, and at some point, City's going to go on like a 15-game unbeaten run, or like they're going to win 10 matches. They do it every year. I mean, this team does it every year. They're going to win. They're going to win 10 out of 11. They're going to pick up 30 points in 33 matches or something like that. And all of a sudden, with 10 games to go, City will have like a 3-point lead or something like this. But it's interesting though. I think today they win, but yeah, it could be 2-0, something like that.
I find it interesting because apparently Pep came out yesterday and said that City has to be pretty much perfect for the rest of the season to catch Arsenal.
Pressure on all these other teams. He says City and Arsenal don't have any pressure on them. I'm like, what planet are you? Like, Manchester City has no pressure. They spend they spend $2 billion. They have 3 squads of players. Like, Manchester United, if they don't get in the top 4 every year, their fans want to
want to burn them at the stake
to the ground. Like, nobody cares about Manchester City, man. They got 12 fans. Like, it's just crazy. And Arsenal fans are the worst on Twitter. They're the worst.
See, the other thing I noticed about this Arsenal team is, they come out really strong in the first 20 minutes of their games. And if you notice, like a lot of their games, they score in that first 20 minutes and they put teams in a hole. And I think that's what their big thing is. If they can just continue, they don't even need to, they don't even need to play phenomenally down the stretch. They just need to, come out in the first 20 minutes. You get a 1-2 goal lead in that span. You make it very difficult for these teams to come back, especially with the defense they have. So
yeah, and I think you could counter that sometimes if you play against them. Like, I know United did that when they beat them. Like, if you can kind of like withstand that first 20 minutes, like you said, and maybe even take a lead, it puts them a little bit back on the back foot. So yeah, Arsenal is interesting. They're going to be in the round of 16 of the Europa League, so they're going to be playing in March. They're going to be playing on every Thursday. They're going to be playing in the FA Cup. They're probably going to make a deep run. They always do. So they're going to be playing a lot of extra games here. So we'll see what they do. Obviously, Manchester City does too, but Manchester City is a lot more equipped with multiple squads of players.
I just wanted to mention, did you guys see the Juventus Cremonese game yesterday?
I saw the highlights.
Yeah, so Juventus won 1-0 on a free kick in like the 91st minute or something like that. It was in stoppage time. And honestly, like I watched that full 90 minutes. Cremonese was all over them. It was unbelievable. They had 2 goals even taken away. I'm surprised that Juventus came away with the win there because they looked awful.
Napoli lost.
Yeah, first loss of the season for them. Inter Milan played very well in that game.
Interesting.
Yeah, big header by Edin Dzeko.
Yeah, that leak now. The table is, AC Milan's only 5 back now.
Yeah, you know what? Fiorentina, I saw the Fiorentina and Monza game. I don't know if you saw the goal Monza scored, but it was.
I saw that in highlights again.
It was phenomenal. Like, I was on Fiorentina and I was disappointed they gave up the lead, but there was nothing I could say about that goal. It was so nice. I was like, wow.
That was amazing. I mean, it was a world-class goal.
Yeah, for a team that has four away goals this year, like I'm surprised they managed that.
If you're gonna do it right, right?
Exactly, right.
So,
highlight reel.
Hey, right. Make sure that the fans enjoy it. So I'm assuming that the people on at home watching on television enjoyed every minute of it. Talking about yesterday, here's a headline from the Premier League that Sean was talking about. Arsenal's penalty claims incident-packed Liverpool game. Injury. That was that. I did watch some of that game yesterday, and it was more like watching WWF wrestling. It was hard to watch. They were knocking each other all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, they sometimes it depends on the ref. They let some of that stuff happen and
Let it go.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I was just looking for somebody to jump from the top ring and rope and land on somebody. It's a pretty wild game. You just talked about Manchester City. When a team gets on a streak in any sport, but specifically in soccer, what's kind of the telltale sign? You sit there and go, okay, suddenly, the switch gets flipped and they start playing. Where does that switch usually come from?
Well, for City, I mean, it's all, when these runs always start. These runs always start right in the festive fixtures when everybody's playing 2 matches, 3 matches in 8 days. You're playing, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, or something like this. And all these other cities got 3 squads of players, and they can win these games with their backups when they're facing, they're facing someone's backups or someone has, makes some changes. They make 3 changes, and City makes 3 changes and brings in Riyad Mahrez, Kevin De Bruyne, and, somebody like that. And then, the next week they bring in Julian Alvarez, World Cup winner, for Phil Foden. Mm-hmm. And, it's ridiculous. And these other teams don't have 2 squads. I mean, Manchester United now is starting to get back to that level where they have, multiple attackers or multiple players you could put in and the back 4 to cover. Not as much. The problem, I think, I don't know if Foxy's here or not. I think they're going to have an issue with Newcastle, but they'll probably sign some players here for cover. They've had some injuries. So, will they be able to play these multiple, the FA Cups, but they're also not in, these other competitions. So when all these teams are struggling playing in the FA Cup, because now you got all these extra games because of the World Cup here. So Manchester City is going to be able to play all these extra guys and go on a little bit of a run. So you're going to be able to see that they'll start beating these teams, 1-0, 2-0, not 70% effort. Winning games, whereas Arsenal now, draws against Newcastle 0-0. Whereas if that was City, they would have found a way to score a goal and win that game 1-0.
So basically, it boils down to being able to have depth that you can roll out.
Yeah, I think that's a main thing. I think with Liverpool now, you see Van Dijk's going to be out for a month. You see a month and a half with the hamstring injury. Who's coming in to fill in for him? Who's filling in for some of the injured players up top? They had to go out and sign Gakpo because they have Luis Diaz and Jota are out. Now, so when they get healthy, but then you got to get through these 3 months. For United, if Sancho ever comes back, they got Sancho to cover. They got, they got multiple players now at every position at the top. They're a little bit light in midfield. They're deep. Their back 4 is not bad. Their backups the other day were Harry Maguire, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka. And Wan-Bissaka's actually been good since he's come back in. So, it's not the worst. We complain about Maguire. He had a really good World Cup and Lindelof, but as your 3 and 4 guys, those aren't. Some of these guys you see like what West Ham has to roll out. That's the problem now with like West Ham and these other teams. They have to. West Ham is going to have a real issue going forward in March and April because they're the best team in that tournament. They're the best team in the Europa Conference League, and it's a European Cup. And if they win, they're in the Europa League next year, which would be big. And it's a European Cup. You have to try to win it. But they don't have a squad of players now to play on Thursday full strength and then come back on Sunday and play full strength. They're going to get worn down. At some point, you're going to run out of gas there. But Foxy, we talked about that the one time when Foxy, what's up, Foxy? Forest shutting up a lot of quick critics. Yeah, we talked about Nottingham Forest yesterday. Southampton's going to go down 100%. But
Fox, the Premier League.
Yeah. And Everton not far behind them. But Foxy, when they talked about when they were in that Europe that one year, I mean, you play so well and you finish fifth and you go into the Europa League and you want to make a deep run, but it crushes if you're not deep enough. If your squad isn't deep enough, it crushes the thing. You suffer on the weekends, and the Premier League is what got you there. So it's a cycle. I mean, for some of these teams now, that's why some of these teams don't care about the FA Cup and the League Cup. Like they'll just put out the FA Cup's coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that tomorrow with the 32 games. You have to just really be careful with some of these teams because they will say they'll put a weakened team out, and if they go out, they don't care because the FA Cup doesn't matter. They're not going to win it anyway. The only teams that are going to win the FA Cup are the top 6. So if you're a team like I don't even know, Aston Villa, Palace usually makes runs, not, Leeds, Bournemouth. If you go out in the 3rd round or the 4th round or something like that, and you could just focus, you'll only have games on weekends when all these other teams you're playing are playing, FA Cup and European games and Carabao Cup games and all this stuff. You could just play your starting 11 every weekend because there's no other games, and you end up staying up. That's how you stay up.
I mean, you were just talking about Nottingham Forest. Have you ever been to a game at Nottingham Forest?
I have not. I don't know if Foxy has, but
I've never. That was one of the few Premier League places I've never been, and I've heard it's really kind of a neat place.
Yeah, I don't even. I couldn't. I know it's like somewhere in the Midlands.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I know it's like right in the middle of the Midlands.
Yeah, it's not that far from London. I mean, it's a couple-hour drive.
Yeah, I just I've been to City, I've been to Liverpool, I've been to Aston Villa, I've been to Southampton, I've been to Chelsea, I've been to West Ham, I've been to Everton, Blackburn, What's that? We went to Everton the one time, and we were on TV like the entire match. Like every time there was a throw in, like the throw in was right in front of us. Like we were on TV. Like people were like texting us, like because it was when was it? It was 2019. I just went for 5 days. We went Sunday. We went to Everton Arsenal. Tuesday we saw Porto, Liverpool at Liverpool. We sat in Porto, and Wednesday we saw Barcelona, and Thursday we saw Eintracht Frankfurt and Benfica in Portugal. So I was gone for like 7 days and back. Like half these people didn't even know I was gone, and then people are texting me like am I nuts? Or, I feel like I just saw you at the Everton game. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, no, I'm here. And they were sending me screenshots like every single time the ball
every time the camera showed.
Oh yeah, we got tickets in like the family stand or something like that. So we were like 2 rows off the pitch, and it was me and my buddy Amaro Pereira, and like it was just like we were just sitting there, and they're like, there you are. It's crazy. So, but so I've been, I actually. That ground is interesting. The new ground will be nice, I think. But when you look at the table here, it's a mess for Everton here because they have dropped back into the bottom 3 at this point. I think Well, I don't know how good Wolves is. They've only had 11 goals. I think they'll turn it around if they sign a goal scorer and score some goals in the second half, because it's just so hard to play against. Everton's only allowed 24 goals as well, but so they you look at Bournemouth allowed 39, although 9 came in one game. Forest has given up a lot of goals, but these teams, these teams here. I think Forest's squad is probably too good to go down. I mean, we'll see with their results, but I think they're turning around, kind of like Foxy said. Bournemouth squad stinks. I wouldn't be stunned if they go down. I would say, I think West Ham is too good. If you had to say right now, I think it's going to be between Bournemouth, Everton, Wolves, and Southampton. I think West Ham will find a way to get out, but look, if they don't start scoring goals, it doesn't. They're not going to get out. I mean, you can't. They're not even scoring a goal game, and 15 goals is not good enough. Leicester's, obviously giving up a ton of goals, but Leicester and Leeds both score goals. I think if you can score goals in these games and get to if you can get to 9 or 10 wins, you're going to be safe, because that's, to 10 wins is 30 points, and then just add on a few draws, you're going to be safe. So
you can get by with.
Yeah, you got to get points. You have to win games. I mean, that's why when you start, when we start talking about, we're just about through here. Chelsea's only played 16, but we're just about through. Most of the teams have played almost all of their first half matches. 19 is halfway through. So, when you start talking about, in a month, when you're in 24, 25 matches, and we're, coming down the stretch, 13 games to go, 14 games to go. When you start looking at some of these games, is there a team that maybe could, if I see Leeds or Leicester or something like this at a decent price, look, they score some goals, they might be able to pick up a win where you say maybe another team, Leicester's got a lot of losses. They got a lot of losses. They don't draw a lot of games, but they score, 26 goals. If they keep scoring goals, they'll find ways to win. You get to 10 wins in this league, probably 10 or 11 wins, and you're going to be safe. Cause I can't imagine Southampton's getting Southampton might not get to 30 points. They're terrible. They're going to finally go down and get rated. They're a team that, they're going to lose some play. They could be in a lot of trouble. Everton's squad stinks. I'll be interested to see if they try to spend their way out of it. Wolves will probably, Wolves isn't a great squad either. They don't score a lot of goals, but a lot of these teams at the bottom, they're there because they stink. I mean, it's not like they're, this Everton, everyone's shocked about this Everton team. Well, this is 2 years in a row. Once again, I mean, we talk about this is 2 years in a row. I mean, you are what you are.
Right.
At some point, and then, Chelsea plays the next 2 games in the league, interestingly enough, Thursday. But, when you come back the following week, you Manchester United City's obviously everyone's going to have their eyes on that. But, Everton, Southampton might be a more important game. Nottingham Forest, Leicester, Wolves, West Ham. That's the 3 10 o'clock games there on the 14th are they're 6-pointers. We're already talking about relegation 6-pointers at this point, because, if Wolves beats West Ham in that game, West Ham's in the bottom 3. If Southampton beats Everton in that game, they jump ahead of Everton. I mean, and it's going to be tight at the bottom. So you got to, these are huge games. And even though it's January 14th, those are games that have to win. And then, and then Chelsea plays again. Chelsea plays every day. They're like CFR Cluj at this point. But these games when we come back after the break, Fulham Chelsea, massive game. United City, obviously. Chelsea Crystal Palace will be interesting. Spurs Arsenal, obviously. Newcastle Fulham, two up and coming little teams, Newcastle and Fulham battling to get into the top 7. And then these three. Brighton Liverpool is a massive game for that's two teams right there that might be similar they're talking about Caicedo going to Liverpool. I don't know. Brighton might be better than Liverpool at this point. But these three games are huge. I mean, they're this and we're only, then it's going to start ramping up. I mean, City plays Spurs, Liverpool plays Chelsea. I mean, I know Arsenal plays United. City plays again. City plays Wolves. That's crazy. Like here's City's playing through two games in 4 days. But Bournemouth's playing Nottingham Forest, another game at the bottom. Southampton's playing Aston Villa, another game at the bottom. West Ham's playing Everton, another game at the bottom. So, they put these games at 10 o'clock, but that's when I'll have the three games on saying, man, these are the interesting games because, that could change the week. So that's 2 weeks in a row when you come back from the FA Cup where you got these massive games at the top. Then next week it's the Fulham's chance to play 2 games in a row. Fulham plays Spurs and Chelsea, and Fulham plays Chelsea. So there's a lot of it's going to be really interesting after the FA Cup because today, there's the game today, and then there's you're not getting any games. Well, you have the Carabao Cup games midweek next week, Tuesday, Wednesday. So there's a lot of different competitions going on here.
But from that standpoint, when you come back, how long do you have to right the ship if things aren't going well?
Well, that's the issue right now. I mean, I think some of these teams, they've made like Southampton made a coaching change. Do you ever watch Fast and the Furious? When they're always like you hit the nitrous too soon and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes they make a coaching change too early, and it's just like you get that boost, but now you got 20 games left, and you can't fire another coach. You can't get that new manager bounced twice. So now it becomes a thing. So now so Southampton's made a change. Wolves made the change. Forest is sticking with their guy. Leeds sticking with their guy. So now, I think Bournemouth made a change. You're looking at Everton and West Ham, Moyes and Lampard. They're going to go. Like Lampard's going to go. I'm just glad they didn't do it before this game tomorrow. But they're going to come in and make these teams, West Ham and Everton, 100% will make signings in the window. So, you get maybe you get a new manager bounce, and maybe you get the signings in the window, and maybe you get the, you kind of get a little bounce there. But, now you're only at the end of February, and this is a weird season. You're going to have a lot of games here down the stretch. It's not, usually by February, you've played, 70% of your games here. It's not going to be like that. So, I think you're going to start to see these teams. I mean, these games are massive the next couple of weeks. So, I mean, I think you're going to know pretty quickly who's going to be. I mean, look, the teams at the bottom here are all in trouble. These teams are all, I would say, I think Crystal Palace and Villa will be safe. I'll go from here, maybe. I think Leicester, if you look at this, Amedeus, you think anybody, like Chelsea's obviously, Brighton's obviously safe, Brentford's obviously safe. They're too good. Where do you think that, would you put the cutoff here?
Yeah, I would draw it at Leicester City because you see, there's the bit of a drop from Leicester. They have 17 points, and then obviously the 22 points for Crystal.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I think, and really,
enough games. Yeah.
Leicester City's in 13th place, but they're 4 points ahead of Southampton. That could easily flip at any time.
Quickly. Yeah, look, I mean, that's so, any of these teams I think are in trouble, which I right away when I'm looking at it, I see Leicester and Leeds have scored 26 and 25 goals. If you score goals, you're going to stay up. To me, I think both those teams are good enough to find results. Like you'll get wins you'll turn losses into draws like Leeds did yesterday at the end of the game. They're scoring that game. They really should have won the game, but like they found a way to get a draw in that game. So they'll if you score goals, you'll turn losses into draws, and that 1 point is big. And you'll turn draws into wins, and those 3 points or those extra 2 points is what's going to bounce you up. I know they only have 4 and 5 wins right now, but at some point, if you're scoring that amount of goals, you're going to start regressing towards the mean, and you're going to get up to 38 points. You're on 17 points now. You're score goals. You're probably going to get 38, 39. That's going to keep you up this year. So now it turns to these teams. And I think this is all, Nottingham Forest signed a lot of players. Their numbers aren't great. 13-34. A lot of that is skewed because of the first 3 or 4 matches. They've been better lately. I think they will find, they have enough talent. So, Bournemouth, their squad stinks, and they're not deep. Everton's squad stinks. Wolves can't score, but they have some good players. If they could find someone to score, I think they'll be okay. Southampton's squad stinks. West Ham, I just don't know. A lot of losses. I mean, you've lost 11 of 18 matches. They don't score goals, and they have some decent players, but I don't know how deep they are. And once again, they're going to be in Europe, so I think they're in trouble. So it's going to come. The 3 teams that go down are going to come from here, and it could there's some big names, man. Imagine if West Ham, Everton, and Southampton go down. That would be that
would be a crash.
Yeah, no, it would be interesting. I mean, you see some teams. I think it's going to be Bournemouth, Southampton, and I don't know, maybe Everton. I just don't think Everton's very good. That would be my guess. Well, I would say, probably with 95% certainty that the 3 teams are coming from these 6. I mean, it's not like rocket science. They're 15th to 20th in the table, but they've all played 18 games, so there's a pretty large sample size.
And that's of course important because, as you said, Sean, earlier, the amount of money that cost seems is off the charts.
Yeah, and you have to, these guys aren't going to go down without a fight. So all of a sudden now, you're going to say, well, I mean, Nottingham Forest can't spend. I mean, they've bought everybody. I mean, I guess they could, but Southampton, I can't imagine is going to try to spend their way out of it. Although, look, I mean, 1 win and they're back to they're even with these teams. So I mean, they could. So it'll be interesting, the next 25 days where this market is open. You'll see who Wolves signs and you'll see who Everton signs. But these teams are all bad. So
okay, so when they do, if they are relegated, right? Where they seem as if they're going to be relegated, do they get rid of the players to dump payroll?
I mean, they can't after the once the window closes, you can't really do anything. So, but yeah, there's going to be if they go down, yeah, they're going to be selling players in the summer. May Southampton's probably already got a list. I mean, I would there's some players there. They got some. I mean, they have Southampton has some good young talent. I wouldn't mind kind of getting in there and getting a couple that maybe the center back or the keeper wouldn't be bad. But for teams like Everton, they're not young. If they go down, it will be a disaster. I mean, they would have to. They're already in a mess. They're already in a financial mess. Wolves, I think, would be better equipped to deal with it. Bournemouth obviously just came back up. So, they would be equipped to deal with it. Maybe they would bounce right back. West Ham, I think, would be a mess. They go down. Forest, I think, will be all right if they go back, and they would just battle and try to get back up.
West Ham could be like the first ever Europa League team in the championship.
No,
Wigan. Not Wigan. Okay.
Because when Wigan beat City in the FA Cup final in 2013, so they won the FA Cup final, and then they were relegated the next week. So
the next week?
Yeah, they were relegated the next week.
They didn't have time to celebrate, huh?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Hey, they won the FA Cup, which means you go to Europe, and then they got relegated to the championship, and then they actually made a run in the FA Cup. They made a run in the Europa League. They won their group, I think. I think they got to the round of 16 or the quarterfinals that year. As they have gone away to 6 of the top 8 teams and took 9 points. Arsenal away, losing once. Man United away, twice, losing 1. What? I think they'll finish their top 4. Yeah, Foxy, Newcastle will not be relegated. I agree with you. They will probably stay in the Premier League this year. So that's good. Foxy, who would your 3 teams be to get relegated? Bournemouth, Southampton, Everton. See what Foxy says, but yeah, it's interesting. I got to get going for my get on the road here. But I just want to say thanks for watching, everybody. I guess Amedeus and Jim are going to hold down the fort, and we'll come on tomorrow and talk some cup games. And
my favorite.
Yeah, that's right. But
nothing I love more than a cup match.
That's right. All right, so see you guys later. Have a good day.
We'll talk to you. Amadeus, I'm going to talk a little tennis.
Yeah. The Australian Open's coming up, right?
Well, yeah, the story in Adelaide is the quarterfinals, and here's a surprise: the Joker is in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I think, probably all of these, the Melbourne, the Adelaide, the Australian Open, he's just going to be on a tear after they didn't let him in last year. He's just going to be playing pissed off.
Oh, I think he was pissed off last year and didn't get the play. So
absolutely, right? So now he's taking his frustrations, and now it's like, okay, you let me back in, I'm going to win it. And if he does, then really, like, he's won it 2 of the last 3 years, but he's going to look at it like, I won the last 2. You didn't let me play in the one I didn't win.
He's going to lay waste. Right. He's going to lay waste to everybody else. And that's part of the Joker's charm, or if you're not a fan of the Joker's, part of the reason you're not a fan.
I like Djokovic. I don't.
You can't deny the man's talent. Shapovalov is the guy he's going to play against. And
my dentist, my Canadian guy. He's not even our good Canadian guy anymore. Now it's Felix Auger-Aliassime. We go through cycles, right? Like we had Eugenie Bouchard, then it was Bianca because she won a U.S. Open. Now it's Leylah Fernandez. Like it's like every time I see a commercial, it's a different tennis player in the Gatorade commercial. I'm like,
no, we can't deal with this.
Like you can't win one tournament and then you're just like, that's good. Leylah didn't even win a tournament. She lost to Raducanu in the finals. So I don't know.
I just don't. I mean, look, for those of you who are not tennis fans, what happens when you go to Australia is the Adelaide tournament is kind of like your jet lag tournament. Okay, you fly in. It takes a long time. If you've ever been to Australia, it takes a very long time to get there. Okay, you leave Los Angeles, and if you're lucky, 18 hours later you land. Hopefully in Australia, and it takes a long time to get that, that body clock back on. So that's why they play Adelaide as the first one. Then they go over, and you got to get ready and play then the following week. And then 2 weeks later, they go and play, in Melbourne. So you really have to and a lot of these guys coming from Europe and other places, have to get acclimated to the heat. I mean, it's hot down there now. So there's that too. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But anybody, if I haven't seen the odds, but normally it's like, in the old days, it would be Tiger against the field in golf. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the betting line at this point is Joker against the field. And I wouldn't take the field.
Absolutely. I think it was. I can actually, let me just check this right now. Where are the outrights? They always have the major tournament outrights. The Australian Open. Here we go. Djokovic is plus 110. So he's pretty much even money to win the Australian. The next would be Carlos Alcaraz at plus 550.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's in pretty good shape heading into the tournament. Look, at the end of the day, you want to see the best players play. I mean, that's just it, right?
Absolutely.
And you can't deny, like him, dislike him, you can't deny that Joker's the best player out there now. Now, is Rafa good? Yeah, but Rafa is injury prone. And, that doesn't bode well for you. Is Roger going to play? Yeah, Roger's going to play. Roger might be, personally, my own, this is Jim Williams, a tennis fan. Rafa is good. But, Roger might be the greatest who ever played because of the types of game he can play. He can beat you serve and volley. He could beat you just serve. He could beat you just volley. I mean, he had Sampras's serve and he had McEnroe's hands. So that's a rare combination. Does that mean that Djokovic couldn't? No, it just means that Djokovic is good, but he basically beats the living crap out of you one of two ways. One, with a serve, and two, he'll just bloody outlast you. He will just grind you into the dirt in a 5-setter because he just doesn't quit. So yeah, I mean, I don't see anybody on the men's side, even your wonderful Canadian guy, who's gonna. The only person who beats Djokovic now is Djokovic.
Yeah, like I would have to agree with your statement on Federer. He's definitely the GOAT for sure, as they say these days. He is the GOAT of tennis. But yeah, I think the big thing with Djokovic is he didn't really win a majority of his tournaments until he turned the age of 30.
Right.
Which is pretty amazing. It's like now he's in his prime these last few years. And yeah, like if you look at the board, like I've watched so many Tsitsipas. I've watched Tsitsipas play so many times. Like the guy always chokes. He always finds a way to choke. And I have a really good Greek friend who's always like him and Sakari, man. Like they always choke in the finals. But yeah, then like Felix, like he'll make a run, but I don't see him in the finals. Nadal, he's slowing down, injury prone. Maybe Carlos Alcaraz has a chance just because, he's been in such great form over last year. Obviously, Medvedev has gone toe-to-toe with Djokovic a few times in the last few years. I don't see Kyrgios doing much there. So, yeah, like it's really hard to find somebody. Obviously, there's the young kid, Holger Nodskov-Rune there. Mm-hmm. So there are people that could take him down, but I think it's very unlikely, especially if he's going to be just pissed off from not getting to play last year. You're probably going to see the best Djokovic as you've seen in a while.
I think that pissed off factor is probably the key here because, when Joker loses, it usually happens to be, he's not paying attention, which is not to say, you brought up a group of people who are very talented players. And on any given day, they can take him down. No question. Hands down, you're absolutely right. But you do not want to play Djokovic when he's upset, because he will, as I said before, he will lay waste. That is what he is there to do, is to ruin you for the rest of your life. Okay. And you brought up a good point. He didn't start winning until he was 30. The reason he didn't start winning before he was 30 was because Rafa was playing at not Rafa, well, Rafa to an extent, but Roger was playing at a high rate. Okay.
2 blockades in his way.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's all timing, right? It's like, why didn't a lot of people say to me, well, why did it take, Agassi so long? Well, it didn't take Agassi so long. It took Sampras so long to begin to lose his game. And then Jimmy Courier, who literally was playing outrageous tennis, but, suddenly got that arm injury that, basically he could no longer, play well. And all of a sudden, there's your guy. I mean, there's Agassi waiting in the wings to be the next guy. So it wasn't that Agassi wasn't good. It was that the other guys were better. And it wasn't that Djokovic was bad. He was learning. And he learned by losing to some good guys. So, when you get to that level at age 30 in men, but in women, it's like age 22, age 23. I mean, because they start when they're 13, 14, playing. So their windows, to look at a Venus and a Serena Williams who played, well into their 30s at a high level, for women, that is just incredibly odd. It's like it doesn't happen.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you look, a great example of that young player you're talking about is Ashley Barty. She's younger than me, and she's won everything on the planet, and then went and retired to go spend time with her kid. And now I'm hearing she's coaching a 16-year-old in this Australian Open. So,
well, I mean, I go back to the days. Used to do a tennis show in Tampa with Butch Heffernan, and Butch was part of the Australian Davis Cup group, and he had a tennis academy, and he would basically what he did, and there are a lot of guys and women who do this. They play. Some of the star players will call them up and say, "Look, I need you to come to practice with me." And what they'll do is they know that Butch is capable of mimicking, for lack of a better way, of other people's games. So if he, you want to play against Djokovic, he can go and play a Djokovic type game. Not obviously the level that Djokovic plays, but his goal was, that was what he was was known for. And I remember a 9-year-old, Maria Sharapova, who shows up at Nick Bollettieri's academy, which is now the IMG Academy down in God rest his soul. He passed. Nick passed in last month, I think, in his 80s. But Nick took a look, and she shows up with her father at 9 years old, and he looks and says, this kid's got potential, and he worked her up from that standpoint. But at one time at the academy there was Sampras, there was Courier, and there was Agassi. All three of them at Nick Bollettieri's academy, all at the same time. And I think that what we're seeing now is, people keep saying to me, "Well, where's the American tennis players?" They're just not there, because at this point in time, the level of quality tennis is a worldwide thing, and you don't have to look at it for you look all over the place for it, but it's really just not necessarily here. And that doesn't mean you can't get some people there. I mean, there's there are folks that kind of pop their head up from time to time, and you look like, okay, well, maybe that's gonna work. But tennis is such tennis, like golf, is such a ridiculously difficult sport because you have to play on 6 different continents. Okay. And you have to play at a high level every time and every time and every time. So tournaments and to make a living and make a good living in tennis takes a lot of work. I mean, as I said before, it's much like golf. You can't afford to have a bad week because you're an independent contractor. It's not like you're playing for a team where they guarantee you cash. So, you've got obviously endorsement money and all that, but you have to get to the level to get endorsement money. And, if you look where Djokovic came from, right? Djokovic learned to play tennis in basically a war-torn country where there wasn't any tennis sports. I mean, he played on concrete basketball courts and, learned. So he didn't have an easy trip up. And I think that's part of what drives him is he knows how, difficult it was to get there. He's at a point where he doesn't want to get even to a point where he just have to think about what happened to get him there. And that's what drives, great players, whether you're whatever sport you're in. It all goes back to your past. How difficult was it to get to where you are now? If you had a tough time getting there, I don't ever want to go back that way. And Joker is one of those guys who's a killer. And man, he's a stone cold man. I mean, when he gets you in his sights, adios, baby. He's gonna take you out, or you're gonna have to kill yourself to take him out.
Yeah.
And look at how many times he's been 2 sets down in a 5-set match and still won.
Exactly.
I mean, he doesn't. He'll grind it. You want to play 4 or 5 hours? He'll play 4 or 5.
I know it. They'll be like 7-6 sets. We'll go
Right.
to tiebreaker every time.
Right.
I'll do what it takes to beat you.
And you're sitting there just going, will he die? This guy will not die.
You're sitting there going, I can't believe it's 9 o'clock and this match started at 3 in the afternoon. That's what you're thinking in your head.
Right. And you're like, it's like that scene in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where Paul Newman looks over his shoulder and said, who are those guys? And that's what you look at. You look across the net at Joker and go, Jesus, I have given this guy everything I have, and he's still killing me. What am I going to do?
And you made a great point about how his serve is going to be key in these matches. And you know what? The more pissed off he is, the harder the serve. So good luck taking him down in this tournament.
I don't know that. I mean, some people play tennis, where you just play and you play against somebody who's much better than you and they hit the hard serve and you pull out the old racket and you try to hit it. I don't think anybody realizes how difficult it is to forget return serve, right? How difficult it is to put a racket on a ball that's hit 100 miles an hour. I can assure you, having played people who could do that, you can't see it. It's past you by the time you react. So you basically have to guess. So you're blocking, not returning. Okay. If you block it and it returns, then it lands on the other side of the court in bounds. You have scored. Okay, from your own mind, you're like, crap, I got it. And then the next shot's going to end up probably past you. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to return a serve coming from that standpoint. And, now in the old days, 100 miles an hour, forget that. Well, now, 89, anywhere from 90 to 104 or 105 miles an hour, that's natural. Because you got bigger, stronger, more powerful people playing. And I'm talking about on both sides. I grew up playing tennis with Chris Evert. And Chris was the queen of the baseline. She was just whacking across, and it could take 2 hours to play a game. Chris would play whomever Chris was playing. It took 2 hours to play Chris because it was just what we used to call Palm Beach tennis. You'd sit and just watch going back and forth. Very little, run and volley. That didn't change. That changed when Martina Navratilova, God rest her, the moment she's got breast cancer situation.
Yeah, I saw that.
All prayers and thoughts are out to Martina, one of the great people of forget tennis, just one of the great people. And Martina decided to become more, she took on coaches who said, Martina, you need to become more aggressive. And so Martina, was one of the first women to embrace the concept of actually working out and working with weights and working with all this other stuff. So she became a serve and volley player, which gave Chris fits because suddenly there was strength and power coming, which was foreign to the women's game. So Martina actually set the bar and moved it. And then you look at a Sharapova, right? I just mentioned Sharapova, or a Venus or Serena Williams, and they could hit as hard as anybody, and and I think that the physicality, I guess would be the best way of putting it, of tennis, both on the men's and the women's side, to become better athletes and then better players. I think that's been the biggest transformation in tennis. John McEnroe loves to remind me that the biggest change in tennis is that they painted the court so that you can see it better. Other than that, they haven't changed the game. But that's Mac. What are you going to do?
Oh, I love listening to him commentate. There's nothing better.
I will tell you, at the U.S. Open, was covering the U.S. Open. I used to direct the daytime version of the U.S. Open for USA Television. And one day, I had just gotten off, and so I went into the press tent more than anything just to get something to drink. It was hot, and Mac had just come off the court, so he's going to do his press conference. He sits down. Murray Chase from the New York Times was sitting in the front row. I'll never forget this. Murray Chase, Mac's not even waiting for the press conference to start. Mac is going to start the press conference. But the first question he says to Murray, he says, Murray, you were the official scorer of the Mets game 2 days ago, right? And Murray's like, looks around like, okay, yeah, I was. He goes, how the hell did you give, an error to Keith Hernandez on that, and he brings up a play. So the first 10 minutes of McEnroe's press conference was him yelling back and forth at Murray for not knowing how to score an error against, scoring an error against Keith Hernandez when in Mac's mind, he had no business giving it to him. So, the thing with McEnroe, and I'll stop after this, and one of the reasons I love him is that his press conferences used to be almost like he was sitting in a psychiatrist's office and going through his head with random thoughts of, what happened today? Why did I lose that game? I lost that game. It's kind of like he was doing the introspection aspect of it. And you're like, shouldn't somebody be charging him for this? I mean, it's like nobody was asking him questions because he was asking questions. How come I did that? What do you think? What was I thinking? So McEnroe's a rare dude. He's fun to listen to. He might be one of the most unique athletes I've ever met in my life. Someone who just, played the game, loved the game, was pissed, by the way. And I think the one thing I will say about McEnroe used to get mad when players wouldn't play Davis Cup. He was made a Davis Cup captain. And when Jimmy Connors wouldn't play Davis Cup, he was pissed at Connors. And by the way, those who saw the thing about McEnroe not liking Jimmy Connors, that was 100% true. They loathed each other. To this day, I don't think they really. I mean, they've been together a couple of times and say, well, we're fine. No, that's not true. They're not fine. But Jimmy, there's a lot of reasons not to like Jimmy too. But those two guys were amazing. But Mac was always pissed if you didn't play Davis Cup. He thought you had an obligation that if you were playing and you come to the U.S. tennis, if the U.S. Tennis Group had brought you up, then the least you could do is pay them back by playing Davis Cup. And so he was very big on that. So good on him for that one.
Yeah, good on him for sure.
Yeah. So whatever, but he and Patrick, I think, do a very good job on tennis. They have fun. They make it fun. And yeah, hey.
Oh yeah, they still show his meltdowns to this day on the court, asking umpires, "I want your supervisor. We're not going to go get your supervisor."
He would do that, and I swear to God, I said I'm going to stop, but I will stop. He used to do that to get himself psyched up. You know, if you notice, most of the time when a McEnroe meltdown came, it was when he was something wasn't working right. Maybe it was a serve, maybe it was a volley. I don't know what it was, but something wasn't going right. So to psych himself out, it had to be somebody else's fault. You know, it could never be his fault that he was screwing up. So, all right, I'm going to take it out on, a line judge. I'm going to take it out on the referee. I'm going to take it out on somebody. I'm going to take it out on the line judge and a racket. Something. God knows how many, rackets he went through. But, and by the way, he used to play the wooden racket. And
oh, wow.
Jimmy used to play. Jimmy was the first, by the way, pro who actually played with the metal racket. Wilson built the T2000 for Jimmy. And so, but Mac always played with that teardrop racket that was wooden. It took him a long time to embrace a metal racket. But which is so whenever he would slam that racket down, he had to go use another racket because he broke every racket that he slammed. But that was always in his head. That was his trigger. It's like, all right, wait a minute. I'm not playing well. I need to vent something and get this going and get himself psyched. And so that was Mac's own ability to attack somebody. Jumped out on that. It was crazy, but for him it worked. I was just checking to see if you have any other questions. I don't speak. I apologize. I don't speak the language that is down there, which looks perhaps Arabic or Farsi, something like that. I apologize for my lack of ability to read that language, but we wish you well. And if we could ask, you need to ask us a question, we'll do our best, but it's going to have to, if I can't speak for Amedeus, but unless it's in Spanish or English, I can't handle it.
Yeah, I'm Italian and I can't even speak Italian to you.
Okay.
So it's got to be English or I got no idea.
All right. Well, we've been around for a while, so let me just say that it's been fun. Amedeus, any final thoughts? Or tomorrow tomorrow we'll throw some NFL in here because we have some huge games of interest over the weekend. It doesn't look like they're going to play that Bills game against the Bengals at this point.
At all? They're just gonna cancel it?
Their goal at this point is to let the weekend play out. And if the weekend plays out as it should, then they may not have to worry about this.
They're praying for the Chiefs to get the #1 seed so they don't have to worry about it.
That would help tremendously.
That's what they're waiting for. Then it doesn't really matter because the only thing that's going to change is what the number 2 or 3 seeding.
Right, and in a situation like that, they could flip a coin and get away with it.
And I'm sure both teams would be fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any problem at all. If the Chiefs lose, then
it opens up a can of worms.
Then we got a problem.
NFL probably doesn't want.
No, they don't want to have an extra game before the playoffs.
Yeah, no, there's really no. I totally know what you mean. Like I said, the only way they could fit it in is to move the playoffs. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that's the only thing they could do. And as you put it, like there's no way they can do that.
No, there's way too much money both on the television. Let's forget the TV side for the moment. Okay, logistically, you've got stadiums, you've got people, you've got all that stuff. Everything is in place to play playoffs. And so for you to push all that off a week, it's going to sound stupid, but you're talking about everything from airlines to hotels to everything like that. Can you stop it? Yeah, you could, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
When they decided not to play it this week, that basically told me they're not playing.
Yeah.
And that means even if they have to flip it for the first. And you know what? The ownership in Buffalo and the ownership in Cincinnati would be wise not to be pissed off or act like they're pissed off about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
to say, all right, look, this is in the betterment of, what happened. We understand it. We'll suck it up if we don't get the front, I don't think the Chiefs, the Bengals, or Buffalo Bills are that concerned if they miss the first week. I think they're in their own heads. Look, we're ready to play. We can play anybody. We can beat anybody. If we don't get that week off, fine. We're still going to go and get it done. Technically, they actually, not that this is the way you'd want to have it, but technically they only played 9 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it's not like they were overly taxed. They were mentally taxed, but they were not physically taxed. And, you got to wonder the next time that those two teams take the field, this weekend, what's going to happen.
Yeah, maybe stay away from those games from a betting standpoint.
Yeah,
anyway.
you have I don't know what's going to happen.
Stick to the games where this team needs to win it in.
Yeah, because Baltimore takes on, the Bengals this week. I wouldn't want to, I don't know what's going on there. I'll tell you what, I damn sure wouldn't want to play Buffalo this weekend because that's, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, there's there's the obvious dedication. Okay. We're going to dedicate the game, to our fallen comrade and hopefully going to do it. There's that great scene in Brian's Song, an old movie. If you get a chance to see it, it's a fun movie. It's about the passing of, it was about Brian Piccolo and the Chicago Bears, and they dedicated the game to him. Then after the game was over, they went, in with the game ball to give it to him. And Piccolo, even in his cancer situation, in the situation in which he was about to pass away, looked at, the team and said, you do realize that when you dedicate a game to someone, you're supposed to win it. So they didn't. So there's that. But look, we have said all week, our thoughts and prayers are with the family in Cincinnati, and they are, and we hope that all works out. We'll have some fun tomorrow taking a look at the games because there are some games that actually are meaningful. Who would have thought that a 2-6 Jaguar team would be playing against Tennessee on a Saturday night for a Southern Division championship? Who would have thought that a Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers team would be fighting to make, to try to get close to get to 500 or past 500?
To stay above at least.
I
guess they could finish with a losing season.
Yeah, there's who would have thought that? Well, who would have thought at the beginning of the season that Mike Tomlin would have a chance not only to have a 500 or better season, but an outside chance of actually making the playoffs again.
Yeah.
So, what a season for young quarterbacks. I mean, amazing season for a young quarterback. And the guy who, Kenny Pickett, looks pretty good. If he only had an offensive line and an offensive coordinator, he might even be good.
Yeah.
Something which I'm pretty sure that they're going to take care of in Pittsburgh over the offseason. If you are the offensive coordinator, Mr. Canada, in Pittsburgh, don't send your laundry out. It's probably not a good plan. But anyway, it's been fun, as always, Amedeus. And hang on, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Until then, for Amedeus, I'm Jim Williams saying so long, folks. We shall see you tomorrow.